Hey guys, welcome back to the PXP podcast. Very much appreciate you guys listening in. In today's episode, I'm going to be covering pretty much a gear guide for long range shooting enthusiasts. And this is pretty much kind of for novice shooters. I'm going to be explaining understanding the essentials, different scopes, exploring different types of rifles, choosing the right scope, accessories and necessities, and all sorts of stuff. So, enjoy the show, and please subscribe. I would very much appreciate it if you guys would subscribe to the channel. That very much helps the algorithm and everything, and appreciate it. Hope you guys enjoy the show. Welcome. Appreciate you guys listening in. God, I got some stuff to cover today. I'm looking here at my notes. I actually took notes. I took notes on this one. Lots of stuff to cover. So, knowing me, I'm gonna ramble really fast through all this stuff because I talk really fast. Um, but let's go ahead and get into it. I'm excited about this one. This one is going to be really good. It's just the basics. I think I want my podcast to go kind of from like the fundamentals all the way up to like advanced stuff, just kind of incrementally each episode I go through, and then I'll sprinkle in some like match debriefs and stuff like that with my buddies. One of my good buddies just went to the Montana, it was the Montana Pro 406 championship, and he won it. I couldn't make the I couldn't make it. I had a an appointment with a client for an individual session on Saturday, and that's when it was. So I couldn't be there, unfortunately. So sorry about that, guys. But all right, let's jump into this. So, gear guide for long range shooting enthusiasts. Okay, so we're gonna be covering all sorts of stuff here. I want to talk about cartridge. What kind of cartridge you guys want if you guys are getting into long range shooting? What you need? I'm gonna kind of guide you through that a little bit, or at least poke around in my brain, and maybe hopefully it'll spark something and that'll motivate you guys either for like hunting or competition or hobby. We're gonna talk about rifles. We're gonna talk about scopes, accessories, training aids, seeking some expert advice, maintenance and care tips, upgrading, all that sort of stuff. Okay, so you guys are wanting to get into long range shooting, and you don't want to break the bank. Nobody wants to break the bank. So that's the tough thing. We all have to start at ground level. I did. Everybody does. Nobody really just jumps into it not knowing what to do. I mean, if you're just jumping in and buying a $5, $6, $7,000 rifle and you don't know how to shoot it, that's kind of ridiculous. Let's start at the bottom here. Okay, so cartridge. You guys need to, the first thing that you need to do is you need to figure out what you want to use this rifle for. Are you going to be using it for hunting? Are you going to be using it for competition? Is it just a hobby that you're going to do once in a while? Is it a combination of these things? Okay. And the reason that I'm asking that question is because that is going to facilitate what your cartridge needs to be. Okay. So if this is purely a target rifle, okay, that you're going to pull out once every few months, and you want to take your wife and your kids, or somebody that's maybe recoil sensitive, or you're recoil sensitive, or you want something that the ammunition is abundant that you could just pick up off the shelf absolutely anywhere, you might want to go with like a 308 or a 223, or a caliber that's the recoil's not as bad. You do your research, figure out what you want there. um if for me personally, if I'm going to use a rifle for hunting and competition and hobby, and it's pretty decent on recoil, I'm probably going to go with the 6.5 Creedmoor. The 6.5 Creedmoor has a little bit um, less recoil than a 308, and the ballistics are fantastic. And you can hunt with it, you could shoot competition with it, and you could find the ammunition freaking anywhere. So The 6.5 Creedmoor is a phenomenal caliber to get shooters into the sport. Kids, wives, recoil sensitive. You can use it for like competition. There's guys that use it for competition all the time. You can use it for like PRS style competition. It definitely keeps up with those smaller calibers. With those smaller, more kind of overboard calibers like the 6 Creedmoor or the 6 GT, 6 BRA, all those calibers there. So 6.5 Creedmoor is great. I actually was at a competition God, a couple months ago, and there was a dude there that had a 6.5 PRC. So a little bit more recoil than a 308, but he was rocking it. It was pretty much it was a custom hunting rifle, and this dude was just rock. He had it was an internal magazine that would only hold 4, and of course, each stage is anywhere between 10 and 15 rounds, and he was hand loading this thing, and he was making time. This dude was fast as hell, and it was great. It was like a 9-pound rifle, and this dude was hitting steels, man. I mean, it was cool. So it's all about the nut behind the bolt, right? So yeah, do your research on the cartridge. Pick the first question you need to ask yourself is what am I going to be using this rifle for? And I want you guys to write this stuff down so you don't forget. So you don't forget what your priorities are with this. So you don't want to buy a rifle or a cartridge and been like, shit, I wish I would have went with a 6.5 Creedmoor and I got a 223, but I'd like to take this fucking thing hunting too and for elk or whatever. And yeah, I mean, I wouldn't take a 223 hunting for elk. That's just me. But all right. So the next one, okay, rifle. Okay, so after you figure out what you're going to be using this rifle for, you need to figure out what rifle, like company or what model rifle you want to use. Okay, so it all depends on your budget, guys. Okay, so there's these factory off-the-shelf rifles now. They could shoot damn good. Okay, uh, the only thing that you're buying with a a super custom rifle is just like it's very consistent and reliable, right? These off the shelf rifles are now becoming very consistent and reliable. All right. If I'm going up against the best shooter in the world, right, and he has an off the shelf Bagara B14, and I have my custom made rifle that I built and own, I'm going to get my ass kicked 110%. This guy does this stuff. It's the nut behind the bolt, guys. Okay. So let's don't get too down into the weeds on buying getting the absolute most perfect custom. Like don't do that. Just buy a good factory rifle off the shelf. It's the nut behind the bolt, right? So you got Tika T3X, the Bagara B14. You got a Savage 110 Precision. Howa makes an Oryx. I'm gonna put a link in the description. It's the top 15 affordable precision rifles. Okay, and these rifles all are around about $1,000. So that's pretty good. That's really good. I would, if I were to start all over again, in this day and age, I'd probably go with a Bagara B14R. So my experience with, or not a R, Bagara B14. The R is for rimfire. Excuse me. And my experience with Bagara is when they first came out, they were really, really good. Okay, quality control was good. Like everything seemed really good about them. I actually got one as a sniper for my police department, and the rifle wasn't shooting very good. And come to find out, I did a ton of research. The quality control of the stocks kind of went down. What happened is I took the rifle apart and I looked and I saw that the little mini chassis in the stock itself had been covered with like textured paint that the stock was painted with, and when I would shoot, it would heat up and it would shift. So I don't think that's an issue anymore. Do your research before you buy them. But from what I understand now, they shoot great. So I see more people saying that they shoot great than when they don't. So I haven't seen a ton of bad reviews on them. Most of them are all good. Savage, the 110 Precision. Let me see here. I actually got my computer right in front of me. Let me look up Savage 110 Precision and see what the price is. Let me see here. Savage 110 Precision Bolt Action Rifle from Cabela's. Okay, so that's $14.49 to $15.19. That's a little bit more expensive, but it looks like it comes with a MDT chassis. We'll get into chassis here. Yeah, it comes with an MDT stock. That's the chassis. That's the chassis. It's not a stock. Yeah, so we'll get to that component here shortly. But for just a little bit more money, you can get it um, with the MDT chassis, which honestly is a really good deal. Yeah, yeah, Savage 110 bolt action rifle. What do they have it in here? 308 obviously, 6.5 Creedmoor, 300 Win Mag, 338 Lapua, 300 PRC. There you go. 6.5 PRC is going to be in like pretty much all the manufacturers now. All right. Okay, so I'll leave that rifle link in there for you guys. The big thing with the rifle is just do your research. The main thing you want to research on are the barrels. You want one that has a good quality barrel with lots of good reviews. I'm sure all of these are going to have really good reviews. I would shoot any one of these. I'd pick up any one of these rifles. Okay. All right, so now we're going to dive down into the scopes a little bit. Guys get caught up with the scopes. The old saying is that you need to buy a scope that's twice the cost of your rifle, and that's just not the deal anymore. These scope manufacturers are coming out with good quality scopes that have good features on them and good glass for a reasonable price. Okay, like back 15-20 years ago, that really wasn't the case. You had to worry about tracking and all sorts of stuff. So there's a ton of YouTube videos and stuff on there, guys, about tracking tests with a lot of these scopes. But this also, the scope comes down to what you're going to be using this rifle for as well. Okay. If you're going to be using it for hunting as well, you need to do your research and find a scope that's light enough for hunting and competition and hobby stuff. Or if this is something that you just want to do with just competition or just hunting, go down that route. I'll tell you what, I have a 6.5 PRC that I use for hunting, and I have a specific scope that I put on that rifle, and it's a Vortex LHT. Okay, awesome scope. You know, cool thing is that if I wanted to use that scope for competition, I could. But I have that set aside specifically for hunting. So you don't want to put like a Vortex Razor HD Gen 3 on a ultra light, 6-pound hunting rifle, because it's going to be super top heavy and it's going to weigh down your rifle, and all you don't want your Gen 3 banging around on a backpack while you hike, 4 or 5 miles in. And I just wouldn't. That's just me personally. I want something that's a little smaller, a little bit lighter, and it makes the weight of the rifle kind of balanced. It's not top heavy or anything. So you need to figure out, that's what it comes down to again, guys, is like, what is this rifle for? Okay. There's plenty of good scopes out there that could be good for both. Okay, Vortex. So one of them that I would use for hunting and competition is the Vortex Strike Eagle. That one is really good. Okay, I ran that one for a while on my hunting and for competition. So that one was really good. What else do you got? I'm sure Leopold makes a good one here. Let me see here. 6 best affordable. I'm gonna put this link in here too, guys. I copy and paste this in here. Let me see here. Vortex has theirs, like a Strike Eagle or a Viper PST. Those are great. I've had both of those. Those are both great optics. Both I would use for hunting and competition. You got Arkin Optics. Okay, Arkin makes. I've heard just really good things about Arkin. They're really cheap, like around $500. You can get like the EP5 5 to 25 by 56 for like $530. They're pretty good. I don't have any personal experience, but one other thing that you want to think about when you're buying a scope is the reticle. Okay, you need to make sure you look at that reticle and know what the values of each hash mark are, and if it makes sense in your own head. Good case in point. I went to go look at some the Leopold Mark V scopes, and man, I think that their hash values were like in it was 0.25 tenths of a mil, and I just couldn't. It just didn't make sense in my head. I just something about it just did not. It just wasn't working in my own head. So I was like, no, I'm not. I was like, no, this isn't working. I'm not going to buy this scope solely based on the reticle format. The one that I really like is it's the Vortex EBR 7 Delta. And that one's in 2/10. It goes. You got your 1/10 right outside of the center, and then you got 2/10, 4/10, and those hash marks are on top of the horizontal line. And then after the 4/10, you have 1/5 tenth on the bottom. So it's easy to see where 5/10 is. And then it goes back to the top of the horizontal line, 6, 8, and then 1 mil. So that to me made perfect sense. There's no thinking about it. It was very easy to see. So that's another reason why I like Vortex scopes is their reticle format is really really easy to see. Okay. So all right, quality ammo. So guys, that's hard for me to kind of talk about. I reload all of my ammunition, so it's really hard for me to give you some experience. The only real experience that I have is Hornady match ammo. I know Hornady match ammo is really good. I've used it in competitions before, and I've done absolutely just fine. For work, I shoot Federal. Federal, what is it called? TAC rifle. Federal TAC rifle ammunition is really good. That stuff shoots phenomenal out of my 308. Federal gold medal match. That stuff works really well as well. I use that for work too sometimes. So, yeah, guys, sorry I can't really help you a whole lot there as far as factory ammunition. Here later on the podcast, I will be diving a little bit deeper down into reloading. I'll let you guys know what I do to reload. I finally, after about, 15 years, a few years ago, I finally got to the point where I felt really, really confident about my reloads. I felt like that they were very, very high quality. I could see an absolute huge difference in between factory ammo and my reloads. So, yeah, later or in the near future, I will dive deep down into that and kind of show you guys what I do. And then you guys could throw whatever you want that I tell you in your toolbox and do some more research and figure it out from there. This is all kind of self discovery learning. So, all right, moving on. So you got ammo. Okay, I'm not gonna stress this enough. Like a quality rear fucking bag. Okay, do not skimp out and get some piece of shit fucking $30 rear shooting bag. Okay. Don't do it. I see guys come to the class and they have these tiny little rear bags, and I'm like, that's just not. Because I did the same shit. I did it. I was like, oh, I got, I don't need a super nice rear bag. Yes, you fucking do. And ask me how I know is because I went from a shitty rear bag, and I'm like, and I finally had an opportunity to shoot with a high quality rear bag, and my shooting exponentially improved. So get a good rear bag, guys. You could have a POS rifle, and as long as you have a really good rear bag, you could shoot that rifle pretty damn good. Okay, because most rifles can outshoot the person. All right, so the quality rear bag. So I recommend Armageddon Gear or Wee Bag. Okay, those are the two that I recommend. Armageddon Gear bags. I'd get like I said, guys. I'm circling back to this. It depends on what you're doing. Okay, if you're hunting, you're gonna want to get the light fill Armageddon Gear bag, rear shooting bag. Okay, if it's for competition, get the heavy fill and get the biggest one that you can get. Okay, you'll thank me later. And same with the wee bag. If you're hunting, get the light fill. That's totally fine. But the heavier the bag and the finer the sand, you're gonna shoot better. Okay, trust me on that one. All right, and then the next thing that you're gonna need to get is a good cleaning kit. Okay, this is what I did. So before, I just got an ammo box and just threw all my shit in there, and my solvents would spill and I couldn't find certain things, and I'd have to take a bunch of shit out to find the one thing that I needed, and brushes would just like scatter it. Like, no, just I just bought a $16 tackle box, okay, and I put my solvents that I wanted to use, and I'll touch on those here in just a minute what they are. But I put my solvents in a little spray bottle that I got off of Amazon. I got like 4 of them for like $3, and I'd put my solvents in there, and then that's what I would spray my patches with. And then the caps go on. The little plastic caps go over the spray nozzle, and they won't spill anywhere in your tackle box. Okay, and then you could separate your brushes and patches and all sorts of. It just makes it way easier. You just pop the fucking thing right open, and everything is there. And the cool thing is if you get one that has like 3 different steps on it, like a normal tackle box, you can have 3 different calibers. So you have one cleaning kit for 3 different rifles if you want 3 different calibers. Okay. I take that thing every time I go to the range, every time I go to a competition. If I go hunting, it comes with me. Like that's what I do, and it works very, very, very well. Just a simple tackle box. I get made fun of, but I don't give a shit. Okay, I already talked about rifles a little bit. I got ahead of myself. I thought I'd do that. Um, so my next section here was talking about factory rifles. Okay, we already covered Tika, we already covered Savage, we already covered the Vortex Strike Eagle and the Viper. I just recommend those. The warranty on those is great. The glass is decent on them. Like we can make those work. I made it work for many years on the Strike Eagle and the Viper. And the big thing is look at the reticle to make sure it makes sense to you. And don't just go to the store and just look through and see the reticle. Pull the reticle up on the internet and um, and go to their website and look at it and make sure you'll know when it makes sense when you don't need to sit there and think about what each hash mark is. Okay. And you want to understand those because in a hunting or in a competition environment, you want to be able to make those precise holds without thinking, subconsciously. Okay. So it needs to be easy, guys. I can't stress that portion enough. I would buy a low end scope with a reticle that made complete sense to me than a high end scope with a reticle that I just couldn't understand. Okay, because some reticles out there are really confusing, guys. I like the more simple reticles, the simple vertical and horizontal line, and a nice clean Christmas tree, meaning like holdovers. The dots that come underneath are the like you'll see hash marks that go underneath the horizontal line. It kind of looks like a Christmas tree, and that's for doing holdovers. So you're not dialing. If you want one with holdovers, the Vortex Strike Eagle has the holdovers. Okay. Another thing to look at too is if you're shooting in low light conditions using holdovers, make sure that your illuminated reticle, the Christmas tree, also lights up. You want that as well, because you can't make holdovers in low light if it's just the horizontal and vertical line that light up. So that's something that you want to look into as well. It might not benefit you. It might. So take a look at that, and then that might help you out as well. Okay, so now we're gonna get into bolt action or semi-auto. Okay, guys, so I'm a big bolt gun guy. I'm not a huge semi-auto guy. We do have guys in competitions that run semi-autos, which is totally fine. I mean, that's cool. The semi-autos nowadays, man, they could shoot very, very well. I will say that pretty much the only pro between the two is that bolt action, there's less moving parts. It's just going to be more consistent. You don't need to worry about a bunch of dirt and grease and all sorts of stuff getting in there, tuning your gas system. If you're reloading from a semi-auto, I know that semi-autos are kind of hard on brass. You gotta really fine tune that gas system to make sure you're not destroying your brass. Yeah, guys. I mean, and that's pretty much it. Really, they both shoot good, especially for like PRS style type of shooting. I mean, a semi-auto is definitely gonna shoot plenty well for 2 to 3 MOA targets at distance for sure. I mean, if we're shooting 1 MOA targets, at distance, I might definitely go with the bolt gun. Just more consistent, less moving parts. Everything is, less moving parts means more consistent. It's pretty simple. So, but I mean, yeah, totally fine to go with the semi-auto if you want, unless you're crazy about bolt actions like me. Okay, and okay, so the next one here is okay. So let's talk about scope stuff just a little bit. Okay, so we're going back to scopes. My notes are out of order. I apologize. So, okay, when you're looking at a scope, you want to make sure that the features that you want on it are there. Okay, make sure when you're holding that scope and you're testing it or you're doing your research online, you're looking at reviews on how the clicks feel. If the reviewer says that they're really mushy, if you can't hear them, if they're having issues with a really stiff parallax, how does the zoom look? Is the parallax changing when you zoom in? All these sort of things. I have noticed that when I zoom in on my Vortex Gen 3, that the parallax changes a little bit. So if I'm at 8 or 9 power, trying to find a target, and then I zoom into 15 power, my parallax is going to change a bit, and I need to be aware of that. I try to leave my scope at 15 power through the entire match if possible, but sometimes I do get lost trying to find terrain features and stuff. I get a little bit ahead of myself. My body moves faster than my brain, and I need to slow down, zoom out the scope, and find my terrain feature, and then find the target, then zoom back in. So um, yeah, so make sure that you're okay with how the parallax feels, how the zoom feels, how the turrets feel, how the reticle looks, what the weight of it is, what the glass looks like to you. The reason that I got away from the Vortex Strike Eagle was purely because I was shooting very small steels, and the background was dirt. And there was a little bit of grass behind it as well, and I was unable to actually see the steel in my Vortex Strike Eagle. That was my time to be like, okay, yeah, glass quality can matter. That's only happened one time to me. So it wasn't a make or break. It was just one steel. It was a really tiny steel. It was at the very end of a KYL. It's called a Know Your Limits series of steels. And it's basically a hanger with 5 or 6 steels, and they go from big to small. And you have to shoot the big one once all the way down to the small one. And if you miss, you got to go back to the big one and restart the whole thing. And I was unable to even see the small steel. With better glass quality, I'm 100% able to see that steel, the exact same steel, and I haven't had any issues since. But I mean, this steel was 4 inches wide by like 6 or 8 inches tall, and it was like at 580 yards. And yeah, so most people aren't shooting that tiny of targets for the most part. So yeah, just cover all those things, guys. Make sure you're writing this stuff down. Okay. All right. And okay, so now we're gonna break down um your setup that you have, okay? Um and you need to set yourself up for success in the future, meaning you want to buy a rifle that other factories are going to make components for barrels. I think I already touched on that. Maybe I did. Maybe I'm just going to repeat it. Get a rifle like a Tikka, Bagara, Savage, all these big ones that other factories, they're going to make other pre-fit barrels, they're going to make drop-in chassis and all this sort of stuff. So that way in the future, when you want to upgrade the chassis, you can, and it's not a problem. You just buy the chassis and you just bolt it right in, and then you're fucking done and cool. Now you got a badass chassis. Or get a scope that you can use for a while. Don't buy a $200 or $300 scope. Okay. I'm not saying that these low end ones are phenomenal and great, but once you get up into that $700, $800, $900 range, that scope's gonna keep up. That's gonna keep up with you for a while. You're not gonna have a need to replace that thing anytime soon. Okay. So all right here, and bipods. Okay, I'm kind of a bipod horror. I have a ton of them. I got Harris, I got the MDT Sky Pods, I got Accutac, I got what else I got? I got a bunch of them. Okay, um, so gosh, okay, for guys, don't go and buy a seven, eight, $900 fucking bipod like an MDT Skypod right off the bat. You're like, that's you can use that money for other things. Use it for ammo. Try to get this budget down to where you have $500-$600 left to go fucking buy ammo or reload ammo if you're already reloading, and put some freaking rounds down range. Okay, that's what you want. You want leftover money to go and shoot. Okay. Um, yep. Okay. So bipod, I recommend. Let me see. Atlas is really good. I love my Atlas because that thing is absolutely indestructible. So look into Atlas. They run anywhere between 300 and 450 bucks. You can get a really good quality Atlas bipod that you're gonna have forever. So that's a good investment. I've already broke my MDT Skypod and I've had it for 4 months. So they're really good for competition shooting, but I use the shit out of my equipment and I break it, so I got to send it in to get fixed. All right, let me see here. Accessories. Okay, rangefinder. Okay, guys. So, yeah, just get a good, decent quality rangefinder. Spend about 300 or 400 bucks. Get like a Leopold one I started out with. Now I'm using the Vortex rangefinder with applied ballistics in it. I use that one for hunting. It's really nice because I can range whatever I'm shooting at, and it gives me my dope, and I can put wind in it, and it accounts for the temperature, humidity, all that sort of stuff. So it gives me an accurate enough firing solution for hunting. Okay, and I say that because I've always found myself about a tenth or two off, out to about 600 yards. But I'm not shooting at anything or hunting any in distances really any farther than that. I try to get it as absolute close as I can. I'm an archery hunter, so getting close is not an issue. If you can't get close, then you need to move on. You need to have that. You need to have that little thought in your head that says, "No, that's too far." If you can't 100% make the shot, then don't take it. But really, all these rangefinders nowadays, guys, are really good. Even those lower end Vortex ones, like I still use one for work. Okay, they're great. They're totally fine. Another thing you need to look into is toolkits. You want to be able to work on your rifle. You want to be able to take it apart, diagnose if there's an issue, clean it. Maybe it got super fucking dirty. I went to a competition in Utah about I don't know, a month ago, and it was like fucking moon dust everywhere. And I had to completely disassemble my rifle, wipe it off because there was dirt and cleaning solvents that were mixed together underneath the action, and that could possibly or potentially cause an issue. So went ahead and took it apart and cleaned it. But I recommend fix-it sticks. You can get them online for about 60 to a little bit more than that. I think it was like 80 to 100 bucks. Just the basic kit. I haven't gotten anything more than the basic because all the basic does is it comes with more bits and shit. And I'm like, fuck it, I'll just pull bits out of my existing toolkit, and that's what I did. So that's totally fine. Just find the bits that you want to use for your, and it comes with a decent amount of bits too. So, but if you need extra bits, just pull them out of your other tools, and that's for about 100 bucks. Or you can get a fat wrench. That's just like a super cheap one too. It's totally fine. It works. There's nothing wrong with just a normal, as a Weaver fat wrench or whatever. Just a little bit bigger. I like the smaller fix-it stick because I could throw it in my hunting pack or my competition bag, and it doesn't take up a bunch of room. All right. Okay, this is for like your competition shooters and not so much your hunters because your hunters are going to be using a hunting pack. I use like an Exo Mountain Gear for my stuff. But get a quality bag that's going to hold your gear. Okay. So for competition, I use the Eberly stock. Oh shit. I forgot what it's called. Um Eberly stock packs. Let me see here. Okay. It's called the Eberly Stock Up Ranger. Okay. And it's really cool because the back of the pack has like a really thick plastic bottom to it, to where if you lay it down in the dirt or mud, it's not going to like soak into your pack or anything. And on the inside, it's like felt and it has dividers in it and stuff like that. A lot of photographers use this pack to put lenses and cameras and stuff in, because it protects your gear. So I use that for competition. It's a $300 pack. It's really cool. But for your competition shooters, I recommend this one. And just get a decent pack that doesn't just have like one huge space to it where all your gear and it's just kind of jumbled in there. You want to be able to like somewhat organize your gear into certain areas to where you know where everything's at. I started out with it was a separate Eberly stock bag. I forgot what the hell it was. Oh no, it was my Mystery Ranch Metcalf pack is what I started with. I was able to put my large items and like jackets and stuff in the main compartment, and then the other compartments that I have, especially on top, I was able to put like extra ammo, um, rangefinder, all that sort of shit. So it was kind of separated out, and they weren't just thrown into the pack. You want to take care of your gear as much as possible. All right. Okay, so let's talk about training aids. With the training aids, guys, so there's nothing better than dry firing. It's free. Like when I go to the range, especially with my overboard 6 Creedmoor, um, and I want to shoot 50 rounds. I mean, that's a chunk of my barrel life, right? So what I typically do is I'll create a stage or a course of fire, and I'll dry fire that at least 2 to 3 times, and then I'll live fire it. So that's one way to practice. Okay, and you could do this at your house too, if you're not into the positional shooting and stuff yet, and eventually we'll get there. Just lay in the prone position, or throw your nice shooting bag that you got from Armageddon Gear over your couch and shoot from the kneeling position. Go into your garage and find something or I got like a step ladder and it's like 4.5 feet tall, and I would use the steps as different heights. And that's how I started practicing at my house. And it was like $30. I can use it around the house, throw it in the bed of my truck when I go to the shooting range. If there's no props there, I would just use that ladder, and it was great. Works totally fine. But yeah, if ammo is a big deal, which ammo is a big deal to me too. I'm not exempt to the ammo problem, especially the primer problem. I'm starting to get pissed at Shields. But I don't want to just be burning ammo like crazy, right? So um, definitely dry fire, run through several dry fires, and then shoot a couple live fire rounds, and then keep doing that cycle. Change up the targets, change up the positions, all sorts of stuff. Okay. So another thing that you can get that's just the next step up from dry firing is called the DFAT system, the DFAT dry fire system. And you could Google that. It's DFAT system. And what that does, and it's specific to your scope, you screw it on to the end of your scope. Okay. And what that does is it narrows the aperture of the scope, or the objective of the scope, so you can parallax down or focus down your scope all the way to like 8 feet. And what that allows you to do is it allows you to shoot at targets like on a poster. So or because the DFAT system, you have the option to order like poster targets, and you could put them up on your wall in your living room, in your basement, and then obviously make sure your weapons unloaded and rendered safe. And you could dry fire practice at the targets on your wall. But what I like to do is I pull up targets on my computer screen, because what I've noticed with the DFAT system is that it makes the objective so small that not a whole lot of light gets in, right? So, but if I use my computer screen, okay, and I turn up the brightness all the way, it's not a problem. And I just open the shades in my basement. That way there's more light coming in, and I have no issues. And then I just take that ladder and I put it in my basement, and I practice positional shooting for 45 minutes to an hour. And if you're feeling really crazy like I do, I put myself on time. So, yeah, super good way to practice, guys. DFAT dry fire system. It's like $140 or something for the whole thing. Okay. All right. And once you guys are to a point where you feel like that you hit a plateau in your training and you want a little bit more, you need to seek expert advice. Okay, that means getting a hold of your local instructor. Okay, I'm in Montana. I travel all over the state, and I do instruction all over the state. I'll go down to I haven't been to Wyoming yet, but I can go down to Wyoming. I can go to North Dakota, South Dakota, Idaho, Washington, whatever, as long as there's a good range there that can facilitate ranges out to about 1,000 yards. So you got any questions about that, feel free to email me or get a hold of me on the podcast here. And but that can also mean, guys, just one of your buddies that's into it. All right, seeking out on some forums, or I don't know if I recommend that a whole lot. But just get a hold of someone local that does it, and go train with them. Ask them questions. Feel free to ask me questions. That's why I'm here. I want you guys to ask questions. I want you guys engaged. So feel free to reach out to me, ask questions if you have questions on scope rings, if you have questions on what sort of base that you need and all sorts of stuff. We're not going to cover that today. This is just like the meat and potatoes of what you guys need to do to get into the long range stuff. Okay. But feel free to contact me at precisionxproductions.com. You could find me on Facebook. You can get a hold of me here. And yeah, do not be afraid to reach out. Okay. All right. So maintenance, care, and tips. All right. Okay. So how do I clean my gun? This is very simple. This might be opening up a can of worms. Okay. Some people not might like the way that I do it, but this is how I found works the absolute best for me. Okay. So in my cleaning regime, it's very simple, guys. I don't go super down into the weeds. I don't clean my barrel all the way down to bare steel. I don't do any of that shit, okay? I have a bore scope. I have a bore scope in case I feel like that there's an issue with my rifle, not to see if it's fucking cleaned all the way. Like, don't even go down that rabbit hole. Do not buy a bore scope and shove your bore scope down your barrel, and you continue to clean your barrel for 2 freaking days. It takes 30 minutes to clean your gun. Okay. So what I do is after a cleaning session, after about 80 to 100 rounds, somewhere in there, I'll clean my gun. If it's any less than that on a training day, I won't clean it. If it's 100 rounds or more on a competition day or whatever, then I'll clean it right when I'm done. Between 80 and 100 rounds is when I clean my gun, and I keep that consistent. Do not, do not, do not clean your gun, because what's going to end up happening is you're going to get a carbon ring in there, and then you're going to start getting pressure spikes. Okay, then you're going to start blowing primers. And ask me how I know. Just ask me how I fucking know that, because I've done it. All right. I've heard of guys not cleaning their guns at all. I've heard of guys cleaning a ridiculous amount. I've heard them yeah. So just find what suits you. But what I do is I use Vortex Eliminator. The reason that I use that, it doesn't smell, and I have found that that it's really good about breaking down copper and breaking down carbon. Okay. I'll run one wet patch down the bore. Okay. And obviously using a bore guide and a bore rod. Make sure that you have a bore guide and a bore rod. You definitely want those two things. Okay. So spend a little bit of money, get a $30 bore guide that'll fit. You can get universal ones. I have a universal one that I use, but preferably I would get one that has an O-ring at the very end of it to keep the solvents down the barrel, because you just don't want your solvents coming out of the bore and seeping down into your action and into your action screws and making a mess. It just saves you a little bit of a mess is all. It's not the end all be all, but it saves you a little bit of a mess. If you could find one that has like an O-ring on the end to keep the solvents down, that's great. Okay. And then get like a coated cleaning rod. All right. Just a one piece cleaning rod. Not that big of a deal. You can get them from like $40 at Shields or Cabela's or whatever, and they're great. Okay. And so I throw one wet patch down my barrel. Then I get a nylon brush and I soak my nylon brush in my Vortex eliminator, and I do 40 strokes down the barrel. So one, or down and back is one, down and back is two. I do it 40 times. After I do it 40 times, I put the nylon brush right near where the chamber is, where the carbon ring would be, and I just spin it for a minute. I spin for about 30 times or so, and your hands cramp up a little bit, but that's totally fine. You just do not want that carbon ring built up. Okay. Then I take 3 dry patches, push it through till I'm getting nothing out, and I do this same sequence 3 to 4 times. Once I stop seeing copper come out, and my patches are coming out pretty much clean, they might be just a little bit dirty, then I'm done. After that, I'm completely done. I don't do anything else. I don't get down in the weeds and try to scrape everything down to bare metal. That's it. So, and I've had like really good success with that. So, um, yeah, do your research, find out what works for you. That's what I do, guys. You don't need to do that if you don't want to, but that's what works for me. All right. Okay, and I already talked about upgrading and advancing your rifle. So yeah, just like I said earlier, set yourself up for the future. Get a rifle that you can upgrade. I know for a fact that uh, a ton of barrel companies make prefits for Tikas. They make drop-in chassis. Same with Bagara. Same with Savage. Yeah, and you're not going to have an issue with these actions. These actions are going to last you guys for a while. From my experience, I like the Tika actions. Tika actions seem to be really good. Um, yeah, and that's pretty much it, guys. I just kind of wanted to go over the meat and potatoes of how to get into precision shooting, or how to even start researching, or what to look for. I hope this helped you guys out just a little bit. If you only took one thing away from this, that would make me happy. Please subscribe to the channel, would very much appreciate it. Please check me out on precisionxproductions.com. Drop in, say hi, ask some questions. Find me on Facebook, Precision X Productions. Get a hold of me with some fan questions. If you guys are listening to this on Spotify, there's a section there where it says you can contact me. Sends an email to me directly. I can get your questions answered for you. But yeah, hope you guys have a great one. Get out on the range and shoot, and keep training. Have a good one.